Evening, everybody, and thank you very much for joining me for another conference for the Paris Science Group. We are a group of people in Paris who are interested in science. And today is Paris in a series of talks about how to use science to understand love. Before we begin, a few just points to clarify. Number one, the meeting is recorded because we're going to put it on YouTube for those who missed the meeting or those who want to see it a second time. Second, if you have a small device like a phone or an iPad, it's better that you turn it to landscape mode so you can see the slides and read them better. If you hear echo, you can use a headphone or earbuds. If you have questions, then please write them down. So at the end, we'll have questions through chat, so you can write the question quickly. Now let's start for today's talk, which I give the title, okay, what's happening here? Okay, how to understand love and be happier. The reason for the title is my belief that many people are unhappy because they don't understand love and have unreasonable, unrealistic expectations about love. And as a result, they get hurt and disappointed. And our approach to understanding love will be using science. And by science, I mean physical science, not the so called soft sciences. Science is the so called hard sciences, which can be seen, measured, and soft sciences, which are the branches of philosophy, which cannot be seen or measured, but is just intellectual sciences. And specifically, I'll use the physical brain science. No psychology, no anthropology, no sociology, none of that. These are all soft sciences that cannot be measured or seen. So we're going to use hard sciences of the brain, the so-called neurology. And I know because my name is Fred Noor, I'm a medical doctor, and I am a neurologist. So I went to medical school, then specialized in studying the physical structure of the brain. I've seen actual, real, living human beings. I give them actual, real medications and chemicals that change the brain chemistry, and I saw the results. So I know about that. I like to clarify that I'm not a neuroscientist. A neuroscientist is usually a PhD, doctor of philosophy, usually in the branches of the soft sciences. They don't see actual patients, so a lot of the work is theoretical. And you probably wonder who this guy, why is he talking about the science of love, the brain science of love? Typically, people don't go to see a neurologist. Is he qualified to talk about that? I say I had a lot of experience about brain science of love accidentally. I was giving a lecture to a group of patients every month, and one month it fell on Valentine's Day. They asked me to give a lecture about love. I gave it, they liked it. We repeated that every year, so I accumulated knowledge. Then 3 years ago, I wrote a book about love. People ask me, why did you wait so long to write a book? I said, simply because I have two daughters that went to college and they were told that love must start by sex. And when they asked me, I said, there's no evidence anywhere that love starts by sex. Love and sex, two different systems. There's no evidence for that. They said, no, some people claim that there's scientific evidence for that. So I said, okay, show it to me. Maybe I just didn't see it or missed it. It's good to learn the other aspect of love. So my daughter left and came back and gave me this book. First observation I had is anatomy. Ana meaning up, ectomy cut, like appendectomy, cholecystectomy, to cut something away. So it's really a branch of medicine where you start in the first year of medical school to cut the body to understand its structure and how it works. I was surprised that the author is a PhD, Doctor of Philosophy, but it's okay. It didn't bother me. I thought I'm going to read the book and learn from it the relationship between sex and love. But as I read the book, I was quite annoyed and angered because, in my opinion, the book is nothing but a collection of pseudoscience. It has no physical basis in reality, it's all Hollywood medicine. I felt I have to help my daughters, but I cannot help my daughters without influencing their peers because they are likely to listen to the peers more than they listen to me. So I had to respond by writing this book called True Love, How to Use Science to Understand Love. I have two other books, but this is the first one in USA, and it's basically the book on understanding love based on neurology. And what you're going to hear today will be all done based on the content of the book. So now let's start talking about love because this is the purpose of the meeting. But what is love? And I'm talking specifically about love of a mate. Love of your brother, love of your sister, love of your dog is totally different. So talking about human love from a mate to a mate, a man to a woman to a man, if you're gay, somebody of the same sex. But explaining love is very risky. It's a risky business. Why is that? The reason is each one of us has a different perception of what love is. So if you have 100 people, there will be 100 different perception of love. Each one have his own perception. And we all expect me to give you your own perception of love. If it's different, you're disappointed. Let me give you an example here. Somebody reads a book and he likes the book. Later on, the book is made into a film. He goes to see the film. When he comes back, you ask him, what do you think about the film? They found that 100% of the time, people feel that no, the book was much better than the film. But why that? Because when you read the book, you form your own imagination of the scenes and the character. When you go and see the film, it is the imagination and the character of the film producer. Of course, my own imagination is so much better than anybody else. So, of course, I like my own imagination and I'm disappointed with the other one. I'm disappointed in the book because the book is not as good as my own imagination. It's the same with love. Each one of you have their own concept, perception of love. Each one of you expect me to give them exactly that perception. And if I don't, they have to feel disappointed. But there's nothing I can do about that. We have to deal with reality. Hopefully, I can change your perception to be more based on reality. So, what is my own concept or perception of love? I say love is a feeling, it's a subjective sensation you have inside, and it's toward one specific individual. You love only one person. You love Victoria, you love Jackie, you love one specific person. If you feel you love more than one person, that is not love, that's sex. Sex is towards a range of individuals. Love is towards one single individual. That feeling gives you a certain joy and happiness and pleasure. They give you motivation to do certain behaviors. Because you love Victoria, you're going to do this and that for Victoria. So this is love, a feeling towards one specific individual producing joy, motivation for certain behavior. Your definition might be different. What is the goal of love in general? It is two: preservation of species and improvement of species. We'll talk about that later on. But subjectively, we feel that we want love to feel happiness. But we have to be careful between the goal and the bribe, in a sense. Let's have an example here. A child have bad cough, goes to the doctor, you want to give him medicine to stop the cough. The medicine doesn't taste good, the child refuses it. So the doctor add to the medicine a syrup or a sugar. So now it's sweet, now the child wants to take it. The sweetness is not the purpose for the syrup. It is just the bribe for the child to take the medicine. The real purpose is to help the cough. The same for love. The real purpose for love is to preserve the species and improve it. But the bribe to get us to do it is to make us happy, so we want to do it, so we seek it. So why do we humans need love? We know animals don't know love. Why did love later on come in evolution for us and we want it so badly? Two reasons. Number one, we want to preserve the species and there has been a decline in the number of eggs. If you look at the fish, common carp, each female fish will lay 300,000 eggs. If you destroy 90% of them, there's enough fish left or eggs left to preserve the species. Frogs evolve further, so the numbers go down to 20,000 eggs per frog. But still, there's plenty of them to preserve the species. But if you look at us poor human, the woman lays only one egg every 28 days. That is 13 eggs per day, per year. Compare 13 eggs to 20,000 in the frogs or 300,000 in the fish. So for us human, we have very limited supply of eggs. We have to do something to protect them so we can preserve our species to compensate for the decline in the number of eggs. The second reason for that is the length of the life cycle. If you look at a frog, it goes from being an egg to grown up and being a frog ready to lay eggs in 16 weeks. So the life cycle gets repeated very fast. So it's more difficult to eradicate the species. But for us, it takes at least 15 or 16 years to have a child that can start to produce and preserve the species. And before that, that child depends on the parents for survival. So if you want to preserve the species, we have to keep the two parents together to support the child until he's fully grown up, independent and able to have his own children. So the goal of love, as we've said, preservation of species, improvement of the species by binding the couple together for at least 15 years. If that doesn't happen, there's a risk for the species to disappear. Before we build on what is love based on science, let's erase some fake news. Let's dispel some myth about love that is not true. Biggest one is what that we love with our hearts. I went to Google image and search for pictures about love. Would I get hearts of so many different shapes, color and shapes? In our mind, we think that love comes from the heart. But does it? Does love come here from the heart or does it come from the brain? If it comes from the heart and somebody gets a heart transplant, he should be in love with somebody else. If it comes from the heart, somebody have a massive heart attack, what have the heart, the love to whoever it is should be reduced. But never happens because we know that love comes from the brain and only in the brain. So where did the idea that love comes from the brain, that love comes from the heart and not from the brain? It came from centuries and centuries ago when people discovered that when you see your beloved, your heart beat faster, boom, 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 boom. Oh my God, that must be the heart can see the beloved and react to that. The love must be in the heart there. But it's not true. Let me give you an analogy here. Somebody driving his car, see another car coming to hit him, so he accelerates to avoid the other car. Vroom. As somebody standing on the side of the road can hear the car going, went fast. Aha, the engine recognized the accident, the engine accelerated to prevent the accident. But that's not true. The engine had no clue, no idea. It was the driver, eyes that send the signal to the brain that recognize the potential accident, and he pushed his foot down on the acceleration and he sent the signal to the engine. It's the same with love. You see your beloved, your brain gets excited, it sends the signal down to the heart, so the heart beats faster. But the heart is simply following orders from the master, the brain. And the heart has absolutely nothing to do with love. So please do me a favor. Next time you find someone that you love, don't tell them, I love you from the bottom of your heart. Make you look ignorant and old-fashioned. Tell them, I love you from the center of my brain. Now they are impressed and they know that you are up to date. Second myth is this. That's what got me into this whole business. The relationship between love and sex. Some people believe love and sex is one and the same thing. And it all came from a group of people like Helen Fisher, wrote a book, Anatomy of Love, and many other books that reach the same idea. And let's look what exactly she said. First, who is talking? I want to ask, who is she? I know first she has a website in her name. That's interesting. That's marketing. And then PhD, Doctor of Philosophy. She's a biological anthropologist and a senior research fellow at Kinsey Institute. Do you know what's Kinsey Institute? It used to be called the Sex Institute. It was founded by a guy called Kinsey. And when he died, he named it the Kinsey Institute. In other words, she is a sex researcher or a sexologist or whatever, sex scientist. And she looked into the evolution of the sex desire in females. And based on that, because she looked at the evolution, became an anthropologist. I thought that's sort of interesting angle of looking at that. So what does she think? What is her opinion? The whole book boils to this sentence on page 379 of the book Anatomy of Love. And this is her way of thinking. She says, no sex, no orgasm. No flood of these discarded chemicals. She refers to oxytocin and vasopressin. In other words, you start by sex, they give you orgasm. Orgasm already is chemicals. This is to say, without orgasm, a woman cannot distinguish a patient, empathetic Mr. Right from self-centered Mr. Wrong. In other words, orgasm is the mechanism for women to select a man. You select a man based on his ability to give you orgasm. So you have to have sex, you get the orgasm, and that's the mechanism of choosing someone. Last, with orgasm, a man deposits seminal fluid that contains, she names some chemical, that can potentially push a woman over the threshold into falling in love. In other words, love happens in the form of sex, resulting in orgasm, resulting in deposits of seminal fluid, and that gets the woman to fall in love. So in other words, according to her, love starts first with lust. You meet a man, he's short, he's fat, he's ugly, and he smells terrible. But you haven't had sex for a while, you can't wait anymore. So you say, what the heck? I just put up with him and have sex with him once. Then, oh my God, sex, orgasm, wonderful. You are great. I want you. I cannot leave you. And after you keep that again and again, he releases enough seminal fluid in you that tip over the balance and you fall in love with him. Wow, enough seminal fluid, enough chemicals that change your brain and make you fall in love. And after a while, you discover that, oh, he's the only one can do it. No other man can ever do so well. I'm attached to him. No other man can come in my life. I'm bonded to that. And that is the perception of love according to a sex, whatever scientist, sexologist, whatever you call it. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that love starts by lust. I believe sex and love are two different systems. Sex came first, is very old, and love came later on to improve it, to refine it. Why do I don't believe that love and sex is the same system? It's exactly the same thing. I say, no, let's look at that. Have you heard about love without sex? Do you remember this story? This is the king of Thailand, and this was the English teacher, and they fell in love, and it's supposed to be a true story. They never had sex, but he was madly in love with her. She was madly in love with him. She risked her life for him, and he risked a lot of things for her. Do you know people in some culture where they're not allowed to have sex before marriage? They still fall in love and madly in love. They commit suicide and all of that. How could it be if it's the same system? Where is the sex, the orgasm, the seminal fluid to cause love? It's not there. It can't be. In my opinion, it's garbage. And what about people have sex with no love? What do you mean? Haven't you heard the story of a man or a woman that had an affair with someone for 20 years? And then they got caught, so the other one got by and stayed with the spouse? How could that be? They had so much sex, so many orgasms, so much seminal fluid, according to this scientist. This woman scientist, there should be love, but it doesn't happen. Why? Because love and sex are two separate things. What about satiety for sex? We know when you eat food, you hit a point when you feel that's it. I cannot eat anymore. Look at the desert. Oh my God, it looks so good, but I can't. And the same with sex. You have sex, you hit a point, and you say, that's it. I cannot have any more sex no matter what. No matter what happened, that's it, I'm done. But is there satiety for love? Have you ever heard of anybody saying then, oh, I had enough love for today, honey, wait until tomorrow. I have enough love for this week, wait until when? They're not. If it's the same system, there should be satiety for both of them in the same way, but it's not, because it's not the same system. It's two separate systems. What about the number of partners? Six is toward a range of individuals. You know, the guy that goes to the bar to pick up a woman, spend the night with her, the next day you want to look for another one, That's sex. But love is only for one person. Nobody goes and falls in love with Jackie on Monday, Jennifer on Tuesday, and so on. Love is toward one person only, sex toward a range of individuals. It's not the same system, it's different systems. What about the effect of sex hormones? We doctors give people with low libido sex hormones, which consistently increase the frequency of the sex act. But out of millions of people worldwide, how many came back to say, you know what, doctor, because I took sex hormone and we're having more sex more often, I love my husband or the husband love my wife more than before. Never ever happens. You can have more sex, but the love doesn't get better or worse or change. Love and sex are two different systems. What about women who don't have orgasm? About 5% of them. According to this female scientist, anthropologist, I can't remember, evolutionary scientist or whatever, you have to have sex to get orgasm, seminal fluid to do that. You don't have orgasm, you should have no love. But these women fall in love like everybody else and fall out of love and kill themselves over love and so on. It doesn't support the theory, does it? What about reaction to rejected love and rejected sex? Let's look at rejected sex. A guy goes to the bar, makes advances on a girl. She says, no, thank you, goodbye, I don't like you. But he does, no big deal, the hell to you. You're ugly anyhow. And he moved to another one, and that's it. He doesn't hit her, stab her, nothing. But when someone loves another person and gets rejected, oh my God, they get very violent. Look at the story of Carmen. When Don Jose discovered that Carmen is leaving him, he tried to plead with her to come back. When she doesn't, he kills her and kills himself. Massive, serious reaction. It's not if it was someone he wants to have sex with. It's not the same system. What about aging and decline in sex or decline in love? We know as we get older, we decline in our desire for sex and in the frequency of sex. But do we also decline in love? We get older, we no longer love. Here's an article that I found July 4, 19. Ohio couple aged 100 and 102 wed after falling in love at senior home. They're so old in a senior home. See, at age 100, 102, they are able to fall in love. Are they able to have sex, you think? Do you think have sex as often as they used to? No, because as you get older, the sex system, sex desire decays and declines, but love does not. If it's the same system, it should follow in the same way. Pseudoscience, garbage by pseudoscientists, in my opinion. And now, what about urgency for sex but not for love? You heard about the world's oldest profession, prostitution. Why do men go and spend money? I work hard for them and go spend it just to have sex. Because there's urgency. I cannot wait. I can't say I'm going to have sex next year. No. But what about love? People wait for love for many years. I'm sure many of you have been waiting for love for 10, 15, 20 years. You don't have urgency to find love. You wait until you find the right person to fall in love with them. But you don't wait to have sex with the right person. When you have to do it, you have to do it. You put up with whoever you find. Availability of a mate for sex versus love. When you want to have sex, you accept the first available one. The man who looks for a prostitute, she doesn't have to be perfect, whatever. Anyone who is available will do. Who do you have tonight in this place? Here's the money, I will go. But is it for love? Any woman you find, okay, on July 16, I'm going to fall in love. Whoever I find, I'm going to do it. No. There's a difference between your reaction for availability for sex and love. So with all of that, 10 reasons, it's not the same. In my opinion, pseudoscience, but I must admit there's a connection between the two. I see the sex center, and I underline the word center and the love systems with an S. Because there's one place in the brain called the sex centers too, but love is not one place in the system. Some or same people claim they found the love center of the brain. It's garbage. We can talk about it later on. Love has multiple systems that work together. And it's true that love makes sex more exciting and enjoyable. When you have sex with someone you love, it's much more enjoyable than sex with somebody else. And we know the mechanism of that, and we will explain that and talk about how it happens when we talk about romance. And also, sex helps enhance the bonding between the pair. And we'll explain the actual brain chemistry and how it happens when we talk about true love. But we know that if two people are bonded a little bit together, when they have sex on a regular basis for a period of time, they bond stronger. As a neurologist, we found that couples that have good sex life can stick together when a catastrophe hit one of them, while couples that don't have a good sex life, they're not close together, they don't. They tend to break up more easily. But having a relationship, they claim it's the same thing. I'm a doctor, I have a nurse. I have an influence on my nurse, nurse have an influence on me. It's wrong to assume I became a nurse or the nurse became a neurologist. Or it doesn't matter which one is all the same. It's not. It's two different things that have connections between them, but the two separate things. The bottom line is love is not sex, and sex is not love. All right, let's move to another myth. Love is a one event that lasts for a lifetime. And we all somehow got brainwashed to believe that. Because each one of you will say, yes, I expect to find love one moment and that's it. That will last me for a lifetime. And let's listen to that song, you probably know it.
Every night in my dreams, I see you, I feel you. That is how I know you go on. Far across the distance and spaces between us, you have come to show you go on. Near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Once more, you open the door, and you hear in my heart, and my heart will go on and on. Love can touch just one time and last for a lifetime.
We all know the song, and it somehow convinces us that love can touch us one time and last for a lifetime. Even many of us think that the Titanic is a love story. I can convince you, if we have the time, that it is not a love story. Is a failed love, and there's a reason for that. You have to read the books. Many read books that say if it's not forever, it's not love. Love have to happen once and last forever. But doesn't. Does love comes in one phase and that's it, as we all are made to believe? Or does love come in phases? I say love comes in phases. First phase is mate selection. Have you ever met someone who say, I'm in love with who? Oh, I haven't decided yet. I haven't chosen someone. Impossible. First step in love is to select a mate. And you select a mate with two elements. One is your unconscious brain, and that's what we will talk about today. And next week, we'll talk about the unconscious brain. Once you made a final decision who is the subject of your love, you immediately move to phase two, romance or falling in love. But the sad thing, a lot of misery happened to people because somehow we got brainwashed that romance is love, falling in love is love, and that's it. Nothing before it, nothing after it. You're supposed to be in a romance, and that will last for a lifetime and never ends. You see a movie like the Titanic, and you believe this is reality, when in reality it is not a successful love story. Anyhow, eventually, romance ends, has to end in each person. And it's followed by another phase called falling out of love. Yes, every person falls out of love, and no, falling out of love is not a failed love, it's not the end of love as we think. Falling out of love is just a phase. The example or analogy is pregnancy. The woman will have 9 month pregnancy, which is like this period of time. Then it always have to end, and it must end when it reaches its purpose. And then it ends with a painful phase, an analogy be falling out of love. But it's needed to reach the next phase. So the last and final phase of love, and this is the true love, this is the love that you can think about, not the romance, is phase four. And we'll go over all of these phase by phase to understand them as they go. Next myth is that sexes are equal in their effort to select a mate. Man spends as much effort to find a woman as a woman finds as much effort to select a mate to have healthy children. I tell you, no, they're not. Oh my God, how dare you say that? You must be a sexist. You must be a male chauvinist. We are exactly the same. I'm a feminist, and I was raised to believe that the only difference between men and women is the shape of the external genitalia. Everything else is not. This huge Y chromosome contains nothing, the whole chromosome, millions of codes just for the shape of the genitalia, and that's it, which is not true. That is not true. There's a difference. And women are more fussy about male selection than a man. You don't believe me? Look at the number of attending now. How many women and how many men? I'm sure you're going to find there are significantly more women than men. And why is that? There's a biological reason. What biological reason? Well, let's look. I believe the woman considers her egg as a golden egg, very valuable, and she guards it like nothing else. And why that? Let's look at a woman. Typical woman starts menstruating about age 15, so at age 55. Some a little bit earlier, but an average. And she lays one egg every 28 days. That is 13 eggs per day. So in 40 years by 13, that's 520 eggs for a lifetime. And I'm cheating here because I'm assuming that she never got pregnant. Because if the woman gets pregnant, for every egg, she's going to waste 8 eggs because she gets pregnant for 9 months. So the other 8 eggs could not be released. So in reality, the number is smaller. But I'll be generous with women and I'll say 520, 600 for a lifetime. Now let's look at the man. The man can have children between age, say, 15 and 95. You know, the singer Julius Iglesias had a child at age 90. And the records of people having children, men, at age more than 100. And every time the men have intercourse, he donates 50 to 150 million sperm. Each time, 100 or 50 to 150 million sperm. Average, the men say have sex 3 times a week, 50 weeks a year. 2 weeks is sick, is out of town or something. 50 million, that's the low end of the sperm. So I'm going low end in the man, high end with the women. By 150 times a year for 8 years, there's 600 billion sperm. There's 600,000 million sperms. Look at the difference. Say the women have 600 eggs, the men have 600,000 million. Significant difference in supply. The women have very few, the men have so many sperms. Maybe that's why the men feel the sperms are cheap and women feel the eggs are very expensive. And that results in adaptation by the woman to that. So a man can select a mate in one phase only, called precoital selection, before having intercourse. He will look and select a woman, and this is the woman that's going to be my woman. This is the woman I'll have sex with. This is the woman I'll give her my genes. Then what does he do after that? Nothing. He goes to sleep and starts snoring. The end. What about a woman? The woman does exactly the same. She searches and struggles and this and that until she finds the perfect mate, and then she will accept his genes, accept his sperms. Is she done? No, 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 no. For a woman, it's very important. This is a serious job. I have to select more. What? Yes, I select during intercourse. During intercourse, you select? Yes. What do you select? I have between 50 and 150 million sperm. I have to select from them. I'm not just going to take any one of them. Can any sperm fertilize the egg? If that is, then the French concept of equality is correct, it's biological. That it doesn't matter, equality, everybody is the same, any sperm can do it. But in reality, it's not. The woman will go and select the best of the best through tough competition. We're going to see the competition. In other words, biology supports the system of capitalism and is against equality of the French system. Now, this is a woman, this is the high end of the vagina, this is the uterus, this is the fallopian tube, and the ovaries. So the man deposit his sperms over here. Then what happened? They get exposed to the acidity of the vagina. They go through a chemical warfare that's trying to kill them. And a large number of them will be killed. Few of them will manage to survive and go through here called the cervix. And what happened in the cervix? It has something called the mucus plug. Do you know what is the mucus plug? It's a very thick material that is impermeable for most things. No bacteria can pass the mucus plug, no fungus, no virus, not even COVID-19 cannot go through the mucus plug. The woman can never get an infection here, ever. Not one single woman throughout the history of the human race have ever had a single infection here unless the mucus plug is removed. So if a woman has endometritis infection here, first question the doctor have to answer, what happened to the mucus plug? Why did it come out? And that's always the case. But sperms are tough. They're going to swim through this very thick thing, very difficult. Most of them will die, but few will survive and end up here. Then you have to run further. How far the distance from here to here? If you look at the size of the sperms and the size of the human being, it is 17 kilometers. And they all have to run as fast as they can uphill, like the Tour de France. Everybody going as fast as you can, and the winner will be who? The fastest, healthiest, fittest one. And off they go. And are they done yet? No, next they have to go through an IQ test. You have to guess, are you going to go this way or this way? And some of them will go to the right, some of them will go to the left. We are left now with only 50 sperms out of 50 million. So 25 will go right, 25 will go left. And finally, you go in here and found the egg. Finally, the woman stopped protecting the environment, protecting the eggs, and selecting the best sperm, and that's it. No, I'm afraid it's not. As the sperms come in, he finds this green layer. It's called zona pellucida. It's a barrier that he has to go through using enzymes. Now it's a biological warfare that he has to go through it until he gets to the other end. And finally, félicitations, he can mix his genes with the genes of the eggs. And his reward is very big. He won the Tour de France. He's going to get millions of dollars. The egg is 10,000 times his size. 10,000 times the size of the sperm. What a great award for so much work. But what about the other 24 other fellow sperms? What happened to them? They all want to share in the prize and go through to fertilize the egg. But if you have double fertilization, triple fertilization, it's a useless fertilization. You cannot have a normal human being. So are you going to listen to the French principle of fraternity? The egg is so big, 10,000 times your size. Come on, share it with everybody else. And if you don't, we're going to get the government to tax you, force you to take the money and give it to other people. Fraternity, this is natural. No, it's not. They don't. They listen to the advice to the most popular president in the history of France. And every French woman, and actually every woman in the world, listened to his advice and follow that advice since eternity until today. They don't listen to fraternity and equality and all of that. Listen to the advice of that president. And I'm sure you know who is that president. President Donald Trump. Why? Because he said, build the wall. So they're going to go and build this red wall. As he said, a big, beautiful, strong wall that will keep everybody else out. Fraternity, sorry, is not biological. Goodbye, my fellow citizen. It's only capitalism. Okay, now the egg is fertilized. Is the woman finished selecting yet? No. My egg is so valuable. I only have very few of them. The man has so many of them, he can throw them away, I don't care. But I have to make sure I preserve the species. It's a very serious duty. The future of the human race is on my shoulder. But, my goodness, what can you do now? Say, sorry, honey, I'm not done selecting yet. Post-coital mate selection, meaning after intercourse and fertilization selection. How can you select after all of that? How? Well, through a mechanism we don't know, she will monitor the fetus, the baby. If it's good, she will keep it, and if it's bad, she will have a miscarriage. 90 to 95% of all miscarriages, when you take the fetus and examine it, have major defects. That's why the woman body decided not to keep that bad baby and get rid of him, so she doesn't waste 9 months with a bad outcome. I have a very narrow time window to save the human race. It's a serious responsibility on my shoulder. I have to have it. I have to rule the bad fetuses so I can get pregnant right away. So in other words, I'm sorry, but men and women are not equal in their mate selection efforts. It is more important for women. They carry a larger biological burden of preserving the species, and they live up to it by selecting and selecting. Now let's change gears and go to our feature presentation for today. Phase 1 of love mate selection. How do you select the man or the woman of your life? And we're going to have 2 parts. Today we'll talk about unconscious brain contribution because we spend time talking about myth. We erase some fake news. Now we start to talk about real news. And as you remember, the goal of mate selection is preservation of species, improvement of species, and the happiness of love is just a bribe to get us to do it. But to understand love scientifically, we need to understand just a little bit about the brain. And it should be that hard, should be able to get it. What I call brain evolution in a nutshell. The brain was built like a house. We have an old time building. Then in the Middle Ages, they built the green building. Then in modern time, they put the blue building. So this is old. This is intermediate in age. This is new. The old is very common in reptile, so we call it old reptilian brain. The intermediate in age is well defined, which is the word limbic, so call it intermediate limbic brain. The new brain is new, so we call it the new brain or new convoluted brain. This one has one malfunction, survival. If you destroy it, the animal or the human is dead. This one is emotion. This is the center for love, for attachment. And this new one is thinking. This is the part you do for thinking. Now, remember this, the old is unconscious and involuntary. This is the center for survival, make your heart beat. You cannot at will say, oh, I want to make my heart beat faster, go boom, 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 boom. No, 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 it's too much. I'm going to slow it down. You can't. It's automatic, it's unconscious, it's involuntary. The same for emotion. You cannot make yourself fall in love with someone, and you cannot stop yourself from falling in love with someone. Why? Because it's unconscious and involuntary. But the new brain is conscious and voluntary. Everything you can decide about is by the new brain. Everything you're aware that you're doing is by the new brain. So as we look at evolution, few rules that all animals have the three parts, but the animals differ in the size and the sophistication of the parts. And that with evolution, we kept improving the brain from the oldest part to the newest part. Like those of you in the computer business know that we started with DOS, and when DOS was perfected, we ended Windows 3.11. When that was perfected, we moved to Windows XP and so on. We kept started with the old, when it's perfected, we keep moving sooner. So improvement happened from the oldest part of the brain to the newest. And look at some sample. This is a frog. We're going to look at his brain here. Most of it is the red part. That's why I call the old reptilian brain. That's the bottom level. The one above it is just this tiny little green area, which have only one thing, sex center. So the frog can have sex to fertilize the eggs to preserve the species. Then a little blue part for the frog to think, should I wait for this man to pass? Should I jump in the lake so he doesn't catch me? So a little bit of thinking, and that's it. And with that, we know that the red part is for survival. It helps him to live. And the green part give him reproduction, sex. But does it know love? I don't believe so. Frogs don't. An important thing to remember is everything is unconscious and automatic. Now we move a little bit further and look at the bird and the head. The old part is exactly the same, change shape because of the shape of the skull. But look at the green dot became a huge green thing. Now we have a large intermediate limbic brain. The blue part is the same, so the bird can decide, should I fly high or low to avoid something coming my way? So what did that do to the bird? How the bird different from the frog? What did the limbic brain add to the abilities of the animal? It improved the sense of smell and added a new type of smell called the accessory smell system. Talk about that soon. And it did emotional interest in the offsprings. If the frog lays the eggs and you go immediately after that destroy the eggs, the frog doesn't care. Because the frog's attitude about the eggs is the same as your attitude now about your full bladder. You feel miserable because it's full and you won't just leave the conference and go to the bathroom to empty that. When you're there, I feel good. I got rid of the agony of that. What happened to the end? I don't care. It doesn't matter. What mattered to me is getting rid of the agony. This is the same of the frogs. They have agony when they have the sperms and the female have the eggs. When they get rid of it, they feel good, forget about it. What happened, we don't care. But compare that to a bird. Try to go and take an egg from a nest of a bird. See what they're going to do. They try to kill you. Try to go and take a young little bird from the nest. The mother and the father will come and attack you. They have strong emotional interest in offsprings. And we humans do the same too. Improved mate selection, which we'll talk about in details later on. Fear to help the animal fight harder for its survival. And a whole set of reward system to encourage the animal in doing things. The joy of play. You throw the ball to the dog bring it to you, so you can throw it again. The dog doesn't want the ball, he wants to play because it makes him happy. Joy of eating. Now this is delicious, I like the taste of this, I don't like the taste of that. Now it's a joy to eat. Joy of socializing. I'm sure you all appreciate it now that you're all locked in at home because of COVID-19. Socializing gives us pleasure. Joy of sex. Sex in reptiles is just for production and repeat and thank you, goodbye. For them, it's like your full bladder. You want just empty it to feel better and thank you, goodbye. But with the old reptilian brain, it becomes a joy. Look at the woman who's 60 years old, cannot have children, she wants to have sex. Why? Because there's joy in that. Joy as in happiness. The species start to know happiness and misery and happiness because of that. Memory start to get better. Circadian rhythm is the 24-hour clock inside you and help control the hormone release. You release more hormones at night. That's why people have sex more at night than during the day. Some diseases that reverse that make them want to have sex during the day and not at night. it's controlled by the level of sex hormones and other hormones. Get you to sleep, get you to eat, and at night satiety, you don't want to eat. Improve sensation. Most important aspect of that is emotions have an influence on your perception. You remember when you fell in love with this man and woman long time ago, and you thought they are the most beautiful human being ever existed until you fell out of love? Remember the shock you had then? Oh my God, why is she so ugly? Why is he so ugly? How come I never saw that before? Because when we talk about romance, we'll see how the chemical responsible for romance will alter your perception of the other person. You don't see them as they are, you see them as you wish they were. The bottom line, remember the fact that intermediate limbic brains are all unconscious and automatic. So all the emotion, that part of emotions and love is unconscious automatic. We have no control over it. Now we move to another big animal called the human, and we see still have the red part, the reptilian brain, responsible for survival. And if this is damaged, you're dead. As a neurologist, many times I'm asked to see somebody to quote, certify that they are dead before they disconnect everything. What I have to do is basically prove that this part here is not functioning. Whatever does, it doesn't matter. If this is dead, the whole person is dead. You have the green part for emotions, exactly the same as the lower animals. And that's important to know that we inherit the old genes as they are before and we keep adding to them. But the structure of our old reptilian brain is exactly the same as birds and exactly the same as frogs. And your limbic brain of human is exactly the same as that of birds. We'll talk about that later on. But what is different is this huge blue part expanded dramatically. Now it's 85% of the brain. So big, so powerful. What does it give us? It gives us thinking. I am thinking what I should say to you now by using the new brain. You're thinking about what I'm saying, whether you want to accept it or not, what you want to retain, what you don't, using the new brain. All the thinking is done by the new brain. Language. I speak English, you speak French, you speak German. It's all out of the new brain. You damage the new brain, you lose the language. You damage the rest, doesn't affect the language. Mathematics, science, all these things that you learn at school and so on is out of the new brain. Technological advances is all out of the new brain. We're searching for a vaccine for the COVID-19 using what? The new brain. We're thinking for new treatment for the new virus using what? The new brain. So it's all responsible for all the advances. But remember that the new brain is what? Is conscious, whatever you can think, aware of, and voluntary decision. Anything you can decide to do or not to do is by the new brain. Okay, let's look at precoital mate selection evolution in different animals. And we'll look at the old reptilian brain and see how they select a mate, intermediate limbic brain and how they select a mate, and the new brain and how we select a mate. Here's a frog, and it's mainly this part with a little sex center here, and that's it. And how do they select a mate? They use vision. They look for another one who has a large body, so they're healthy, have good genes, and has deep mating pouch. They have more sperms. They're sexy, so they're handsome and sexy. And use hearing or voice. They want deep voice, suggesting more sex hormone, so they can have more children, and strong voice, meaning healthy gene, so they can have healthy children. So they're basically selecting a mate based on who can give them the healthiest children and as many of them as possible. So that's preservation of the species, and we want the best genes so we can improve the species. This is the purpose of mate selection. But you probably think, how insulting. This man is wasting my time talking about the frog. Does it have to do with me? I'm not a frog. I'm a human. Look at me. I'm beautiful. I have big lips, beautiful hair, blue eyes. I'm smart. I'm working. I'm earning money. And look at this ugly, stupid little frog. What does it have to do with me? There's no relationship between us at all. You're wasting my time. But let's look at that. A big company in America called X23andMe specializes in just studying the genetic code and nothing else. And they look at the genetic code and look at this ugly little mouth. 92% of your genetic code is exactly the same. That's why all medical experiments done, new medication, new vaccine, is done on the mouse. Why? Because 92% of our own genes is exactly the same. Nothing has changed. And look at this pretty looking chimpanzee. It's 98% of your own genes. So this beautiful woman is so different from the chimpanzee and all the intelligence and all of that just because of 2% of the gene. All the rest is the same. So the bottom line is we choose it exactly the same way. When she goes and looks for a mate and goes at Tinder, she does exactly what he does. Does he look handsome? Meaning have good genes? Does he look sexy? And then she swipes right or left. Exactly the same mechanism. Because exactly the same genes got inherited by her. It's only the arrogance of the new brain that make her think that she is better, but it's not. So that's why when you know how it works here, you also know how it works with you. Okay, let's change gears and look at the birds. Now the bird have this huge green part, the intermediate limbic brain. And the old part inherited the same. The red part haven't changed, so we're going to use the vision and hearing in the same way. But now we're going to add smell, which we'll talk about later on. We're going to add love. Birds, for the first time, start to know love. And look at smell. We have an old smell system for odor. You can smell pepper, you can smell perfume by that. Then the another smell system to identify people. You have a dog, you go home, before you touch the door, anything, the dog recognizes you and start to bark. How did it know? Because it smelled your pheromones. You release them everywhere in large quantities for people to know you, identify you. It's genetic sample of you. It's like your fingerprints. This woman is trying to look sexy by what? Exposing this where a lot of pheromones are released. So she's basically sending pheromones all over the place so some guy far away can see her and can select her as a mate. So let's look at smell and mate selection. And I'm going to use one example of genes. And this gene called MHC, HLA, the same, major histocompatibility gene. And let's look at an experiment called T-shirt smell test. They had guys wearing T-shirts, then they brought some girls and asked them to smell the T-shirt. They never met the guys. They asked, what do you think? Oh, the black one smells so good. The white one smells terrible. The blue one is disgusting. They take the same T-shirt to her. She said, no. The black one smells terrible. I hate it. The white one smells really, really good. The other one may be disgusting. Then they took some samples of the guy, the genes, and the girls, and they matched them to look what will be the genetic health of the children. For that, that has to do with the immune system. And guess what? She smelled this one smells good because his gene mixed with her unique genes produced healthy children. So she wants to select him. And this white guy, his gene mixed with her gene does not produce healthy children. So she doesn't want him. So the smell is genetically selecting who is matching for you. You don't do it consciously, you're not aware of it. You just feel I'm attracted to this guy, I'm not. We look at the other woman, she has different genes from this one. So the black one that was good for the first one, his genes with hers are not a good match. Bad children, she smells him bad. The white one's genes with hers are a better match. Healthy children, wow, you smell so good. I feel so good when I'm close to you. So there's evidence for that. They looked at it in a different way. They looked at extramarital affairs. This man is married to this woman. She seems to be attractive and sexy, but he's not happy with her. He goes and have affair with this less attractive woman. But how could he do that? Terrible things. You take his genes, mix it with their genes, look at the resultant children, they're not very healthy. Take his genes and her genes and look at the children, they're healthier. So in other words, he was feeling that he's not fulfilling his biological duty. So as a result, he had to somehow look to improve to fulfill his duty. Could be the opposite if she was a woman doing the same thing. In other words, we are selecting people and want to continue to be with the people that fulfill our biological duties of preserving the species. Okay, what about after that love? Let's look at two things. Look at the frogs who have only sex and no limbic brain and see
The
how
females
they
are attracted
select.
to the males that produce the loudest and longest calls and enter the water where the males will try to grasp them with their front legs. The successful male climbs on the back of the female and grasps her under the forelegs with his nuptial pads, in a position known as ampelxis. The male is attached in this position until the female lays her eggs. Frogs don't have penises. Therefore, the fertilization occurs externally. During ampelxis, the female discharges eggs from cloaca, usually into water, while the male sheds sperms over the eggs. After mating, the pairs separate. The females leave the water and the males try to find another mate. Within a few days, the fertilization process completes and the frogs disperse.
So we see here the male is selecting a female, the female is selecting him based on the fact that he looks sexy and he has a lot of genes to fertilize her eggs. After that, she leaves him and say goodbye. Did we human inherit that? Have you heard about something called one night stand? These are people using exactly the same genes and they're just doing sex, but they don't know love. Done, thank you, goodbye. What about animals with limbic brain? Do they behave differently? And how would that? Let's look at that here. And this is a peacock and few peahens, and he's trying to impress them with that. He's trying to dance for them as well. He's trying to chase and attract and convince her, please, please, please fall in love with me. I'm a good guy. I'm going to dance for you. I have looked at this new car, trying to impress. The dog doesn't do that. You just see him, accept him, do the act, and thank you, goodbye. Totally different behavior. Okay, let's stop at that and move and say what happened before sex. He tried to convince her that he's a good mate for her, and she takes her time to decide. It's a long tape, so I had to cut it off, but it takes a long time until one will accept him. But she has to fall in love with him first. And this is the biology. And then after that, she stay with him. She doesn't do it like the frog. One night stand and thank you, goodbye. So I tell many people, women, that you're just a sophisticated peahen. They get offended. Oh, me? No, I never do that. A guy will chase me and I act like I don't want him and I wait until I feel, oh, he's so determined. He really wants me so badly. Then I finally submit to him. I never do that. That's a garbage. Listen to this song.
I'm riding in your car. You turn on the radio. You're pulling me close. I just say no. I say I don't like it, but you know I'm a liar. 'Cause when we kiss, ooh, fire. Late at night, you're taking me home. You say you wanna stay. I say I wanna be alone. I say I don't love you. but you know I'm a liar. 'Cause when we kiss, ooh, fire.
So I'm sorry, we share the same genes as the peahen and we behave like them. We just like to deny it. So we select a mate just like the animals, but slight difference that maybe the animal do the same, we don't know, but we know that women perceive how attractive the male is depending on where they are in the menstrual cycle. So when the woman is ovulating and can get pregnant, every male looks very attractive. When she's menstruating and cannot get pregnant, every man looks ugly. So perception will change according to that. And women, for biological reason, we don't have time to go over that, perceive men with more acids are more handsome and attractive than those with less acid, and that's unconscious. Then use the hearing, the smell, and kissing, by the way, is a form of smell. When you kiss someone, you get their pheromones in your tongue, goes back to the tongue, go up to the nose to confirm that his genes matches your genes and you're going to have healthy children, you're fulfilling your duty. And if his gene don't match your gene, you feel his kiss is better and not good, I don't kiss him anymore, I don't want him anymore. And of course, love, and maybe he'll take you dancing in the same way. But please remember that you have to first satisfy the unconscious brain, what we call instinct chemistry, before you can use the new brain. And the new brain is our next presentation and how we use it to select a mate. And I'm going to stop at that for questions, discussions, opinions, disagreement. A lot of people disagree with me, and fun debates. So let's stop here. And that, let me stop the recording.